My name is Kalista, and today we as a group would like to shed a light on the topic of hate crimes towards people of color.
My name is Ryan, and the main theme of our report is racism, more specifically, xenophobia, which is the dislike of or prejudice against people from other countries.
We hope from this video, more people would be aware of the discrimination that people of color has faced and to be able to educate more people towards this issue to create a better environment for everyone in the society. We also wish that everyone will be able to take a positive side from this video and situate themselves on how to behave and what not to do when we are faced in an uncomfortable situation in the future.
What is racism? According to Oxford Languages, racism is a noun and by definition is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Despite racism stemming from fear and ignorance, we can assume that racism began during the time where the slave trade took part. Europeans began to take people away from Africa against their will, load them onto boats and force them to do labor under the poorest of conditions. However, there is also an argument that the first signs of racism really took place when the Jews became identified with the devil and witchcraft in the 13th century. An analysis of police department statistics has revealed that in the last year, the US experienced a significant spike in anti-Asian hate crimes across major cities. Despite the first initial rise in cases of hate starting in 2019 alongside the outbreak of COVID, in 2020, the amount of cases have more than doubled. New York saw a 388% increase in hate crimes, totaling a number of 28 hate crimes in 2020, most out of all cities by quite a distance. LA is second with 15 cases.
An article taken from the BBC News has brought up the issues regarding an assault towards an elderly of Chinese descent by a 39-year-old man that happened in San Francisco, United States. This awful tragedy happened and was recorded by a Twitter user on March 17, 2021, showing the old lady with swollen and bleeding eyes holding an ice pack. It is reported that it was so traumatizing that it has caused a strain on her mental health, and whenever the issue is brought up, she would get extremely emotional and start crying. This tragedy happened due to the rise of discrimination towards Asian people blamed for spreading the COVID-19 virus, which caused a lot of Asian community to live in fear.
Along with the rise in COVID-19 cases around the globe, the cases of xenophobic behavior and hate crimes against the Asian community have also risen in the last year. From a study, we gathered that acts of xenophobia were most prominent in larger countries such as Australia, France, Germany, UK, and the US. When world leaders such as former President Donald Trump come out and label coronavirus as the China virus, many citizens will see this as a sign to drive out people of Chinese descent and therefore act hostile towards them, contributing towards the escalation of racism towards Asians in the West.
Based on a research paper about openness and COVID-19 induced xenophobia, the results has shown that if China is opening their trades during pandemic, it will increase xenophobic and discrimination in form of racist comments and shunning in personal space. It is also noted from another questionnaire research, when being asked, on this list are various groups of people, could you please mention any that you would not like to have as a neighbor? And the two notable answers are people of a different race and immigrants or foreign workers, which is classified as a form of xenophobia.
In some countries, racial groups have historically been constructed and associated with expected stereotypical behaviors and traits. Many of these can be seen during the current situation with the Asian community in the US, as many of them are being labeled as bat eaters or disease carriers. As previously mentioned, celebrities such as Donald Trump or Bryan Adams who speak out against Asians only further increase racism, as all of their fans and followers agree with what they say as a form of support towards them.
In this provided poster made by one of our members, it showcased that the discrimination Asian people receive by being blamed for spreading the COVID-19 virus. In this poster, we want to convey the message that Asian people, especially of Chinese descent, do not wish any of this to happen also, and whatever that happened to cause this pandemic, there is nothing that they could do, and it is hoped that through this poster, people can get rid of the prejudice that all Chinese carry the COVID-19 virus and shun them from society that cause xenophobic action.
Hate doesn't appear and turn into violence overnight. It is built up and planted within us through generations of denial, ignorance, and avoidance, which ends up unintentionally guiding our day-to-day actions. When hate is present in the air, people get used to it and it becomes part of their lives, normalized. It is only when it goes too far, for example in a shooting or spontaneous act of targeted violence, do people look around, trying to figure out how they got to that point.
In this poster, we want to focus more on crime towards Asian people specifically. During this pandemic outbreak, the rise of xenophobic and discrimination towards Asian people has been high, so we wish to give awareness that Asian crime is not okay, and we need to stop any kind of xenophobic action that could make Asian people to constantly live in fear and be cast away from society. The theme of this poster is, "The color of my skin is not a crime." And actually it's quite general, as it could relate to another people of color, as there are a lot of hate crimes due to skin color, like the discrimination towards African American for example. But Asians are also considered as people of color and are being referred as yellow as racial slur, and become a target of hate crime and are considered as job stealer immigrants, being underpaid and looked down upon. So in this poster, we want to convey the message that diversity should be celebrated instead of making it seem like as if it is a threat to the society, as they are doing nothing wrong but living and trying to survive as other people are.
Racist and xenophobic incidents linked to the outbreak have been widespread. To limit xenophobia or hate crimes as much as possible, we should educate citizens about the facts of COVID and how it doesn't relate to a person's racial background through political messages as well as through social media platforms. Awareness-raising campaigns should be held as it ensures that everyone is entitled to be treated with dignity and respect. Finally, policies about whether a person should or should not stay in a country shouldn't be created out of fear and ignorance.
Finally, in this final poster, we want to give the message that no matter what our race or background is, we are all human and we have feelings too. The hatred and xenophobic action towards us hurt our feelings, as we do not want this pandemic to happen like everyone else. We also want to highlight and give a moment of silence to 6 Asian women who have been murdered in Georgia due to Asian American violence.